Hey there, and welcome to the Green Living Now podcast. I'm Amy Tedisco, and if you've ever felt like you're eating healthy, buying the right household products, and doing your best, but maybe not always feeling your best, then you're in the right place. For over 30 years, I've helped thousands of people detox their food, their homes, and their daily routines without overwhelm so that they can feel more energized, think clearer, and live a healthier, more conscious life. This podcast is all about practical, honest conversations around clean food, safer household products, and holistic lifestyle choices that actually support your well-being. Today, I'm talking with herbalist and foraging expert Amelia South. She shares her very powerful story after a thyroid cancer diagnosis and how medicinal mushrooms like turkey tail and reishi actually contributed to her recovery. So let's get started. Welcome to the Green Living Now podcast. We are so lucky to have Amelia South joining us today, and we're going to talk about medicinal mushrooms and thyroid health.
I should probably tell you my story of thyroid cancer because
Yes.
thyroid cancer, that's like one of the things that gets you into healing cancer is actually having cancer.
I will let you introduce yourself, Amelia.
I'm Amelia South. I'm a practicing herbalist and a professional foraging instructor. I have a small organic farm in northeastern Connecticut. I teach people about natural healing through food and medicine and herbs and the wild and being out in nature. I'm a big proponent of getting away from the standard American anything and getting back to our roots, not just organic, the buzzword. I mean, actually real stuff that isn't covered in any kind of pesticides. Preferably.
So you also do in-person classes and online classes.
I do. I have in-person foraging classes and I do some one-on-one stuff. Also, I go to people's houses and I will take them around their yard or their property and show them what's edible and medicinal, like right in their own backyards. It's easier for people to remember if I'm right there. I love teaching people out at a trail or something, but there's a big difference between like, hey, I learned this cool stuff out of this trail. Maybe you'll retain it, maybe you won't.
Right.
Whereas if it's right in your own backyard, you'll be like, hey, Amelia said this plant was over by the woodpile. Oh, yeah, there it is.
We're going to talk about thyroid.
Thyroid cancer. So, yeah, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying because I was working on another farm and I remember I was feeling a lump in my neck, up in the middle of my neck. And it's weird. If there's anybody that can watch this on video, you'll see where I'm pointing. It's like way up near where if I was a man, I would have my Adam's apple. That's where I was feeling a lump. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And it wasn't that bad, except sometimes I would turn my head and I would feel it and it hurt. And sometimes it hurt to swallow. So I got to this point where I was like, okay, well, I should go get this checked out. And I called my doctor and my doctor was busy. I had to see somebody else because that's how it happens at the doctor's. But I said, this is what it is. And they were like, well, I can't really tell exactly what you're saying. I said, do you think it could be my thyroid? I'm not a doctor. And I knew at the time vaguely where my thyroid gland was, somewhere in the neck. I know now that I was feeling it way higher than at least an inch or two higher than where my thyroid actually is. But this lady was like, yeah, let's just get you a scan and we'll check it out. And she ordered an ultrasound. So I went and they'd ultrasound my neck and I kept wondering why they were going really down here around my throat. They said, we're doing a thyroid ultrasound. And they said, your thyroid's down here. Okay, well, I was feeling it up here. I had them scan, whatever. They didn't do anything. But a week or two later, they called me up and they said, well, we found something. We found some lumps and we want to get them checked. We need to have you schedule a biopsy. When they say that word biopsy, you panic.
Yes.
Internally. Oh, panic attack. So I tried not to cry. I was like, okay, I made the setup and everything. I went in for the biopsy and they said there's one lump on the left-hand side that's a pretty large lump, like the size of a pea, and then there's 2 or 3 little teeny-weeny lumps on the right side. So they biopsied the one on the left, which was the largest one, and it came back saying 50% chance that it was cancer. So I had the consultation with the endocrinologist and the doctors and the surgeon and all that. And first they tried to tell me that they were going to take out my whole thyroid. And I said, no, you're not. They were like, well, but these other little lumps. And I said, are the other lumps cancerous? And they said, no, but they could be eventually someday. And I said, but if they're not cancer right now, you're not having them. I want to keep as much of my body intact as possible.
Yeah.
I was very assertive. Let's just say that. I was not a BIT, you know what, but I was very assertive about it. No, I am keeping my organs. Thank you very much. And so they said, fine, we'll take the left lobe. I don't know if anybody knows about thyroid stuff, but I thought maybe they could like scoop out the cancer and take it out, but because you can do that with some kinds of cancer.
Yeah.
Apparently with your thyroid, you can't. The only choices are either take half of it or take the whole thing. Because of so much blood flow goes through your thyroid organ, if you were to take out a chunk of it, you would basically bleed to death.
Oh my word.
Yeah, so there's a split in your thyroid. Your thyroid basically hugs
Okay.
over here. So there's one half, it's like a split, like really thin on top of the trachea, and then one half is over here, one half is over here. I don't know if they cauterized it, whatever they did to sewed it up
Right.
so that they were able to take one side.
Gotcha.
And I told the surgeon, I said, unless you go in there and happen to see with your own two eyes cancer absolutely everywhere, you are only allowed to take half of this. I said, I swear I will kill you if you take my entire thyroid for no reason. So I put the fear in this surgery. So I had the surgery in December of 2021. And when I came out of it, the surgeon was right there. He says, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "How did it go?" He said, "Well, we only took the one half. Don't worry. It hadn't spread to any of your lymph nodes. It hadn't spread anywhere else." And he said, "The interesting thing is this lump had attached itself to the muscle in my neck." So he said the cancer was on the thyroid, but it had started to grow out and attached itself to the muscle. And the reason that I caught it when I caught it is because it was pulling on the muscle up here that I could feel when I swallowed and moved my neck around.
So you might not have had any symptoms that you would have noticed.
No, the endocrinologist actually
Wow.
told me I caught my own cancer at least 3, maybe 5 years earlier than anybody else would have because I pay
Wow.
attention to my body, and I was like, "Something's not right. There's something going
Yeah. It's remarkable. And man, that was only 3 years ago. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Okay.
Yeah,
So do you
not
have
even
to
3 years ago.
Oh, geez. So do you have to get scans each year?
I have to now have a blood test. Well, for a while, I was having a blood test every 4 months because they test for cancer markers,
Oh,
and I was getting an ultrasound again every 6 months, but the last one they did was, I think, in December, and she said, "You know what? You're looking good. It's looking
good.
great. Nothing's gotten bigger," so they said once a year now I can go get a scan or once every couple of years.
Okay.
I ended up being put on medication.
Okay.
This is another thing. Because of the existing lumps on the other side of my
Mhm.
thyroid, the tiny little
The
ones
remaining side.
yeah, the remaining side that they said that there's a couple of little tiny lumps there. They're like, "Well, the doctor said we don't want those to become cancer, and if you don't take any medication, what's gonna happen is that remaining half of thyroid is going to grow, get
Okay.
larger to compensate for the side that was taken out. And when that gets
Oh.
larger, those little tiny lumps will also get larger, and they could become cancer."
Huh.
So, yeah, so she said that's why we need to put you on medication to
Mhm.
maintain a certain level of your TSH. And again, I'm not an endocrinologist, but hopefully there are some people listening that have enough thyroid issues to know about what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And I know a lot of people have asked me about, well, I've got a lump on my thyroid. What do I do? What do I do? So this is why. Another thing I will say, and this is just because I'm very, very into natural health again, I asked the doctor, I said, is there anything that isn't synthetic?
Yeah.
Since now I know
Great
I have to
question.
be put on medication, is there any natural version at all?
Yes.
And she said, well, there is. It's NP thyroid. It's also called Armor thyroid. It does the same thing as they call it Synthroid, I think is the common one
Okay.
people take. But it takes longer to figure out, and the dosage is a little different, and it can be a pain. And I said, that's the one I'm going to
Who
take then.
cares? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I said, I don't care. She says, it's basically desiccated pig thyroid. I asked this since then. You can buy over the counter desiccated pig or beef thyroid, and it's basically the same thing. But the problem is when you're missing half your thyroid, if you're on a thyroid medication for a certain reason, specific, and you need your levels to be at a certain space, the
Oh,
difference is when you get the actual medication, the NP thyroid, that is dosed. That is
right.
very, very specific dose. And she said the stuff you buy over the counter or on the internet, it's basically kind of the same thing, but they can't standardize the dose the same
Okay.
way as the medication.
Mhm.
So she said it's kind of like a crapshoot whether you're getting the right dosage or not. I'd rather do the exact, like I know now it took a whole year for me to figure out exactly what dose I need. It's smarter to just stick with that dose. But I don't get any side effects from this. Awesome. She did actually have me try the Synthroid, the synthetic one,
Yeah.
briefly,
Yeah.
and immediately within 24 hours, I had some kind of a weird infection, like
Oh
a
my
female infection down there.
24 hours.
Yeah,
Oh.
so I tried it for 2 days and I called her. I said, something's going on with my body." I stopped taking it,
Yep.
and literally within 12 hours that infection was gone. So I said, it's
Wow.
absolutely this medication. I am
Right.
not going to be the rest of my life on a medication that gives me some weird kind of thing down there.
Absolutely, right.
That's horrible.
Fixes one thing, causes another. So how
Exactly.
did you figure out the levels using the natural one you
So with the
us?
NP thyroid, she knew that I was very against medication, so she
Right.
started me off on the smallest dose possible. It only comes in like 15 milligram increments.
Okay.
So I started off with 15, and then I realized when you get half of your thyroid removed or all of your thyroid removed, you've got enough of that TSH, enough of the hormones in your body to
Mhm.
last you a few weeks, maybe a month at the most,
Oh,
before
wow.
they all start to tank and you just start falling apart. I was falling apart emotionally. My
Oh,
skin was
wow.
starting to produce way more oil. My hair was getting greasy and falling out. It was a nightmare. I
Wow.
still deal with my hair is now half the length it used to be because my thyroid is partially gone. It's yeah.
Even taking this
Yeah.
natural
I
not
mean,
gonna
I'm
get you
also
back
under
to
some
normal.
stress too. So stress is
Yeah.
jacked up cortisol levels don't help, but it started with the thyroid, all kinds of
Right.
skin and hair problems, and that's very, very common.
Yep.
They actually have signs in the endocrinologist office telling you don't take biotin 3 days before your blood test. And
Mhm.
biotin is a main ingredient in like all the hair vitamins you could
Right.
ever take.
Right.
So that you're not supposed to do it because it messes up the blood test. And that reason is because everybody that's had their thyroid removed or partially removed has hair loss issues.
Yeah.
It's a major hormone. I started off on a lower dose. I kept getting higher for a while. I was taking a little bit too much and I was getting like jittery in the afternoon. And she said, yeah, that's like hyperthyroidism. We don't want that. We basically finally figured out just the right dosage and I'm doing fine now.
Through trial and error, you
Yeah.
checked in with your body and you got your blood tested to see what the levels were.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's why I say it took about a year to figure it out.
Yeah.
A little less than a year. And it was not fun. Like I had some major mood swings, which, my boyfriend didn't like, but he understood. I was like,
Yeah.
I am going through this horrible thing. And I apologized ahead of time. I said, if I'm crazy, if I'm acting
This is
crazy,
why.
be nice to me and ask,
Yes.
hey, have you taken your medication? Are you doing
Yeah.
okay? Because I don't know. Sometimes I forget.
Wow, that's so intense. So, how does the medicinal mushroom topic relate to this?
So this is medicinal mushrooms. Everybody, as soon as you find out you're dealing with any kind of cancer, you start going crazy researching what can I do for cancer? How do I prevent cancer? How do I stop cancer? And the first thing that came up for me that I had already kind of known was about turkey tail mushrooms.
Oh,
There
yeah.
is a very famous TED talk that Paul Stamets does about turkey tail saving his mother's life, and it's very well known. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and look up Paul Stamets turkey tail, or there's a TED talk on
I
it.
love Paul Stamets. There's some really good documentaries that
Yes, I love and Fantastic Fungi is fantastic.
Yes.
So the last time I tried shopping his store, he's making most of his supplements with mycelium.
Yes, I've
Yeah, I'm not happy about that because when you were talking about mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, the fruiting body is the part that's the most medicinally potent. Close your eyes and picture a mushroom.
right.
The part you're seeing
Right.
is the fruiting body.
Exactly.
Underneath, like the roots that are going
The
into the wood
network.
chips or the wood, yeah, all of that is mycelium. It's the roots of the mushroom, basically. So the roots obviously are going to grow a lot faster than the fruiting body, and the roots stay there forever.
Right.
So, and I feel that's like you make
So
more money faster with the mycelium,
I
but the
hate to
medicine is stronger.
Yeah, I hate to think that that's a financial decision. I've looked at his site recently, and there was some explanation as to why they're using the mycelium instead of the fruiting body, but
That's fine. I'm not accusing
that
anybody
more.
of anything. I know that the fruiting body is the stronger part.
Okay.
So, at any rate, because I'm a forager, I already have been foraging. Once I got that diagnosis that, yeah, this is probably cancer and you're going to have half your thyroid removed, I immediately started taking turkey tail because
Okay.
I make my
That's
own
awesome.
double extracted turkey tail tincture with the fruiting body. And I've been foraging mushrooms for a while now. I've just gotten more and more into mushrooms ever since the whole cancer thing. Most mushrooms have some kind of anti-cancer, anti-tumor fighting capabilities. The go-to is definitely turkey tail. The thing that really solidified that for me was about a year and a half or so ago. I'd only been on TikTok for like 6 months or something. I had some followers and I made a video about turkey tail. I was out in the woods. I found some turkey tail. So I made a video and one of my followers saw that video, said, oh, I would love to do this. Do you have any that you could sell me? And they bought a jar of my turkey tail tincture. He said his sister was going through chemotherapy and he wanted to try it to help her. So I sent him the thing. I only had like a little bit of mushrooms. I just threw a few extra mushrooms in there that I still had left. And I sent his package on his merry way. And 2 or 3 months later, I got a phone call from this guy's mother, and he's an adult and his sister's an adult. She called me to thank me and ask me for more. She said,
No
"Well,
kidding.
my daughter's been going through chemotherapy since last September." This was like February, I think, ish, maybe March at the latest.
Yep.
She'd been in chemotherapy for like 6 months. And this woman said, all we did different, we started giving her your turkey tail tincture.
Mhm.
And her last blood test, the white blood cell count came back normal,
Wow.
like for the first time in months.
So
She said, thank you
that's
so much.
incredible.
I want more,
So now I had thought I had heard that you can't take different things for the immune system boosting when you're on chemo, but apparently that's not
No,
true.
in Japan, turkey tail tincture is actually part of the protocol for chemotherapy.
Oh,
In the
really?
United States, where they don't know anything about medicinal mushrooms and they don't
Right.
care about natural
Right.
therapies, that's why they tell you you can't have anything because they don't
Really?
understand it or they
So
don't
is
care.
it
There's
so
no
is
money in it,
best
really.
yeah, because they can't patent it. So is turkey tail the best one? Like, if you added other mushrooms, would that
Um,
have any impact on chemo
so
or
here's what I would say. If you're going through chemo, definitely be on the turkey tail. I would
and
just take
just
it twice a
single
day. If you're trying to prevent cancer,
right,
or if you're like, well, I had cancer and I don't want it to happen again,
right.
I call it Mushroom Powerhouse. It's got turkey tail, reishi,
Yep.
maitake, birch polypore, and chaga in it.
Oh,
So all
nice.
5 of those in it. And birch
Yeah, I like
polypore is very similar to chaga. So
I like the multiple mushroom blends for that purpose, just because I
yeah,
think they all have beneficial aspects to them, and then when you combine it together as a preventative or
exactly. Well, and they all have different aspects. Turkey
yes,
tail, it can help normalize your gut bacteria. It also helps normalize your white blood cell count and fight cancer, and it helps boost your immune system.
nice.
Reishi helps boost your immune system and helps modulate your body's histamine
Oh,
response to allergies. So if
okay.
you've got really bad allergies, taking reishi regularly can help with that. Maitake helps actually keep your blood sugar stable, as well as having some other immune supporting properties. And chaga and birch polypore both grow exclusively on birch, and they're very well known for being super, super strong immune boosters. So it's all of that, like the mushrooms all together, they build up in your system. That's one thing I'll tell people. If you've never taken mushrooms before, number one, you're looking for a double extracted tincture or possibly a triple extracted tincture of the mushroom fruiting body. That's very important that you when
Okay.
you read the label.
So what does double extracted mean?
Regular tincture is extracted with alcohol. A
Yep.
double extracted tincture is extracted partially with alcohol and partially with water. So then you're
Huh.
combining the two because the alcohol pulls out the triterpenes and the water pulls out the beta glucans. And then you combine them both and you have a full bodied tincture.
What happens if somebody can't have the alcohol?
It depends. You can still get the benefits from the mushrooms by just boiling them or taking them in encapsulated form.
Right.
I feel like a tincture extracts like the best parts of everything. But if you can't do a tincture, then you can just, capsules or buy the mushroom dried and make a decoction, which is simmering it on the stove.
Yeah.
One thing I want you to remember, though, is that mushrooms build up in your system over time. Most of the time, you're not going to take a bunch of mushrooms and then all of a sudden feel something. If you've got a cough and you take some mullein tea or you take a mullein tincture, you're going to stop coughing right away.
It
It's
has
not
a
the
quick
same with the
response.
mushrooms.
Got it.
Yeah, it builds up in your system over time. It's basically like you start taking them, you're like, well, I don't really feel any different. But you notice after a while, hey, you know what? I don't get sick that much anymore. I used to get sick all the time, and now I don't get sick anymore,
Yeah.
while all your friends are dropping like flies. It's a great thing just to remember that, you got to stick with it. And that's one of the other reasons why I like the tincture, because I can just boop, boop, stick
Right.
it under my tongue. I'm good to go in the morning. If I remember to take it in the afternoon, great. At least I'm taking it once a day, sometimes twice a day. And it gets in my system. I swear to God, I'm probably 25% mushroom at this point with as many mushrooms as I have ingested on a regular basis.
So do you eat mushrooms too, or you just
I
take it?
do, yeah. No, I like foraging. Some of my favorites are, let's see, chicken of the woods, oysters, black trumpets are absolutely my favorites. I love morels, but they're harder to find around here.
Yes.
I did have some this year on a foraging trip I made to Ohio because her property had a lot of morels.
Oh,
But otherwise, yeah, I don't really find morels very often up in my part of Connecticut.
yeah.
But I can find the trumpets and chanterelles sometimes. I eat puffballs sometimes. I usually put them in soup or something. Puffballs are boring. It's very easy to recognize a
Oh,
puffball.
sure.
And you want to make sure you cut it in half because it's white. If it's white inside, you're good to go. You always
If
cut a
it's
puffball
not
in half.
white, what does that mean? It's gone by?
It's gone by. Yeah.
Uh,
If it's yellow
and
or
don't
turning
they
brown or anything.
somebody knocks into one, for example, and it
Oh, and
releases
it poofs, that's way beyond. Yeah.
that's like
That's way
already
old.
gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
And it's
you'll
just
know
releasing
it'll be a fresh brand new mushroom if
Okay.
it's good to go. I've never found the big giant ones, but every time I see somebody online, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I found this like a soccer ball sized mushroom." They're so excited and then they cook it and they're like, "This didn't taste very good." It doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah.
You have to like marinate it so that it tastes like something.
So what healing properties does it have?
Oh, puffballs? I have
Yeah.
no idea. I would have to look that up,
I mean,
honestly. It's not that
is
interesting.
it worth eating, I guess, is what I'm wondering.
It's worth eating if you don't have any other food, I guess. It's kind of like putting tofu in your soup or something. It adds some body to that. It's just like brown jelly fungus, Exidia ricisa or Exidia crenata. I think they changed the name again. Brown jelly fungus is this goofy looking brown jiggly. You want to poke it and play with it because it's goofy looking. It's like holding a jello jiggler in your hand. That's what this thing looks like. And it's the only mushroom you can really find in the middle of winter around here.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the one thing you'll find in winter, and I've eaten them. You don't wanna eat them fresh. You don't wanna eat any wild mushrooms, like, you don't wanna pick it and eat it. You always wanna cook them. So, but Exidia, I just throw that in soup, and I'm like, "Well, you're adding a whole bunch of stuff to soup to make water thicker, basically."
Right.
So,
Have some flavor, hopefully.
yeah, well, honestly, Exidia, it soaks up the flavor of your soup. So if you've got chicken broth, it's gonna taste chickeny. If you've got, spices in there, it's gonna taste spicy. It's not a terrible thing. It's just really weird looking when you find it.
So one of the things I've always heard about mushrooms is even people who are experts can sometimes make mistakes. So
Yes.
what kind of warnings do you have for people to stay safe around mushrooms?
I literally just like 2 days ago created a mini mushroom foraging course for my
Oh,
my
wow.
website. You can get all this information in there too. Number one thing you got to remember is that no mushroom is going to kill you from touching it. Okay? If it's toxic or poisonous, it's only going to hurt you if you eat it.
It
Touching it,
absorbed through your
no,
skin.
it's not going to absorb through your skin.
Okay.
At least not in any quantity that would ever hurt you.
That's
So
good
you
to
can
know.
touch any mushroom. You don't want to lick it. You don't want to eat it. Any of that kind of stuff. So I just want to take the fear away from that portion.
Okay.
You won't only want to eat something if you are 100% sure what it is.
Yes.
People get really excited. They're like, "Oh, you can teach me mushroom foraging." And I'm like, "You know what? Realistically, I only know like 20 mushrooms and there's like 100,000 mushrooms that exist. I'm not a mycologist. I'm a forager. I focus on the ones that I know I can recognize. I'm getting better
Yes.
and better. Every year I get better and better at recognizing and finding new mushrooms. The closest thing to a generalization of safety I can give you if you're starting to hunt for mushrooms is that the polypore mushrooms tend to have fewer of the toxic variety than the ones with gills. So if you look under a mushroom
Oh,
cap
that's interesting.
and you see the gills,
Yes.
it's there. You've got a higher chance of a gilled mushroom potentially being toxic or deadly than a porous one. It looks kind of like a sponge underneath, barely little
That's really
dots.
good information. Okay.
So
And it's probably ideal to go with an expert to learn as opposed to try to figure it out on your own.
if you can, yeah. I
Ideally.
mean, in that little mini course I created, I gave you like 3 or 4 book recommendations. Plus, in that course is just it's video after video, like me showing you the mushroom, showing this is what
Okay.
this is. Again, I'm not a mycologist, but some mushrooms are pretty easy. You're like, oh, I know what this is now. I've seen this enough times to really be 100% sure I know what I'm looking at. But there's also other mushrooms that's like, well, this is the edible variety. This is the poisonous variety. And you put
That's what I
them
was gonna
side
ask
by
you.
side and they're so close. Like that's how people get in trouble.
Right. And that was going to be my next question is and it sounds like you're saying there are some that look like the non-poisonous ones that are
Yeah.
medicinal that are actually poisonous.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so how do you tell the difference?
again, I only go for the ones that I know I'm going to recognize. I always keep my mushroom book with me
Okay.
everywhere I go in the forest. That is the one thing, even if I forget one of my other foraging books,
Yeah.
I always make sure I have this little mushroom pocket guide in my
Okay.
backpack because it's been amazing. It's been very helpful.
Which one do you like?
Mushrooms of the Northeast. That's
Okay.
my favorite one. And that's because I'm in the Northeast. I think they have a different version for different parts of the country. I try to focus on, okay, well, I think I recognize this mushroom. I look it up in the book, then I'll look it up online. You can also join a Facebook group for mushroom identification.
Oh, that's
There's
cool.
usually some rules about that. You want to take multiple pictures. You got to tell them what kind of forest you found it in, or what area it was growing in, what state you're in. Take a picture of the top, take a picture of the bottom. A lot of people want you to do a spore print, which is where you
Oh.
take the cap off and you set it on a piece of paper for 24 hours and you find out what color the spores are.
Oh,
There's
wait.
a lot of different things you can do, yeah, with the mushroom identification. There's certain mushrooms that it's pretty obvious what they are. Like,
Right.
you're not, for the most part, going to mistake a puffball. Chicken of the woods is another one that's very recognizable. It's like bright fluorescent orange almost
Right.
in the woods growing, and it's a polypore and it's got all these wavy lines. Black trumpets are really recognizable because it looks like a little trumpet, but it's black. It
Yeah.
literally just looks like a trumpet growing out of the ground. There's some that are easier to recognize than others. And again, get excited, get up close and personal, take a picture and get a good foraging book and join a club, maybe go on a mycology walk or something like that if you can, or go with a forager. Because I know I'm not the only general forager that goes after mushrooms. It's not just plants or mushrooms. It's all of the above, So,
So one
yeah, stick
question
with
I have
things.
for you. So I'm curious, since you know a lot about herbs as well as medicinal mushrooms, were there any herbs that you were taking also that were supportive for your thyroid?
I just went with the mushrooms. That's because I'm a pain. I like to make everything myself.
Okay.
There
Well,
is a
you can
tea.
trust it better when you make
Yeah,
it yourself, right?
yeah. There is a tea called Isiac tea that you can
Yes,
get,
I've heard of.
and that's supposed to be really helpful for cancer. I think I might have bought a box of it, but I don't remember. I didn't make it myself. There was like
Hmm.
2 ingredients I was missing, and I just said, "The heck with it, I'll buy it if I need it."
Yeah.
You can drink Isiac tea a couple times a day, and that's supposed to really help you. A lot of people go nuts for soursop, which is a leaf that grows in Jamaica. The biggest reason I'm not interested in trying soursop is because I'm enough of a survivalist to say, listen, if the economy collapses someday, I'm not going to be able to get soursop. I don't want my body to be reliant on this one herb, this one plant that I literally can only get from trading with a place 4,000 miles away or 3,000 miles
Right.
away. I want to be able to work with herbs that I have in my region, in my vicinity.
Makes
That's
sense.
why I try to practice mostly bioregional herbalism. I'm working with stuff that I can find here or I can easily grow here. So that's important to me too.
Yeah, and then that makes a lot of sense because my sense is that where we live, we're going to find the things that we need the most. I mean, it may be
Yeah.
that soursop works well for people who are 4,000 miles away. And I think there's something about sort of acclimating to our own
Yeah.
micro environment that
Yeah.
feels like it makes sense.
The plants want to help you and heal you.
Exactly. Like, don't people talk about whatever shows up on your property?
Yep.
There may be a need for it.
I talk about
Even-
that. Yep.
Who did say that? Okay, I've heard that before too.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows up. It shows up when it wants to heal you.
Well, I was
The
just
on-
thinking like Japanese knotweed. We have a ton of it. Do you have that down in
Oh,
Connecticut?
we have Japanese knotweed. It's everywhere. It's one of the
Yeah.
most invasive plants, but it helps heal Lyme disease.
Exactly. That was what I was
So
going to say. And
Lyme
the
disease
Lyme is
came
taken
from
off.
Connecticut. So
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're the Lyme capital.
Yeah,
Well, it's
we are.
gotten pretty prevalent all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's one thing to remember. And the other, just basic cancer fighting. If you want to prevent getting cancer in general, whether that's thyroid cancer or any kind of cancer, try to eat whole foods as much as possible.
Ideally organic.
Yep.
Gotta be
If
organic.
you can, reduce or eliminate sugar. And I'm talking about white sugar,
Right.
like maple syrup and honey. I have those. Sometimes I'll have monk fruit. Or allulose, I think, is another one. It's not great, but it's doable. Stevia.
Yeah.
But white sugar, I actually found out earlier this year, I'm allergic to white sugar, cane sugar. I can't
Really?
have,
How'd you
yeah.
find that out?
I started getting this weird rash on my inner arm. A rash was showing up and then it would go away for a little while and then it would show up again. And I started tracking, like, what am I eating that is causing this to show up? Because when you get a rash on your skin, unless it's something like you touched poison ivy, any other kind of random rash that starts to show up is a gut issue. It's always a gut issue.
Yeah.
It's something that you ate or it's something going on with your digestive tract. And it just kept showing up only certain days. So I figured out what I was eating and it was a couple of different cookies. I'm a cookie monster. I like cookies. And I was buying cookies and they had sugar in them. And I'm like, well, as soon as I stopped eating those cookies and I stopped eating all the cane sugar stuff, it went away. It was fine.
Interesting. Wow. Huh. Well, and I think to add to your list, I mean, whole foods, absolutely, certified organic,
Mm-mm.
ideally. Also, whatever people are being exposed to in their home, right? This is one of my areas of
Yeah.
specialty beyond food is just don't use products that have all sorts of toxic synthetic chemicals in them
Oh
because
yeah.
all of that builds up in the system. And if you're
Oh, and
already
the
struggling,
news. I don't know if you've
well, the
heard the
news,
news lately about tampons.
oh,
Tampons
yeah,
and pads now, they just tested them. That this just came out last week
yeah.
that they tested them and they had all kinds of cancer causing agents. And a
It
lot of
was
people.
even the organic cotton ones, I
Yep.
believe, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
All of
told my
them.
daughter
I
about that.
switched to a menstrual cup like 6 years ago and I love it.
Oh, that's
Absolutely love
cool.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody that is
that's a good
still of
idea.
menstruating age, please try out a menstrual cup.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
And it's basically like a little rubber
It's a silicone thing. You kind
oh,
of
a
have to
silicone.
fold it in half sort of and shove it up there. So
Sort
it's
of like
not
a diaphragm insertion.
yeah, you don't have to shove it up quite as that far,
Okay.
but so there are different kinds. There's some kinds where you can kind of bear down and it'll dump itself out. Or I've tried 3 different ones and I still like the first one I tried, which was a Diva cup. You have to
Oh,
stick your fingers up there and pull it out. But I mean, it holds an awful lot of blood. You usually only have to change it maybe once a day or twice
wow.
sometimes.
That's pretty cool.
Um, it holds like a shot glass worth of blood, which you'd be surprised how much you bleed once you're finally looking
Oh,
at it in a
yeah.
little cup. You're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. It's an interesting way to become even more in tune with your own body, right?
that's true. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what else do we need to know about mushrooms?
again, always cook mushrooms. Like
Yeah,
even
so
the
that's
ones at the grocery
because
store, you really should be cooking them.
right. And that what's the
Um,
reasoning behind that?
I don't remember.
Oh, we
It's
can
something I'll
Google.
learn. It's something I learned. Yeah, we'll have to Google it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I learned this 5 or 6 years ago. Like when I started really getting into hunting mushrooms, everybody, all the experts there's something. It changes the composition. Like even if you're only like
Oh, interesting.
dropping it in a frying pan for a minute or two,
Yeah.
there's been stories in the last year where somebody died from eating undercooked morels. Morels are
Oh,
delicious, but you have to cook them. Yeah. So
wow.
these things have to be cooked, all the way through. It doesn't
Yeah.
take that long to cook a mushroom usually. They fry up
Oh,
pretty quick in a frying pan, or you can
okay.
dry cook them or whatever. Just like with chicken of the woods, if I ever find a chicken of the woods, I cut it into strips and I'll usually just throw it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer if I'm not going to make anything with it right away because I
Okay.
can thaw it and then I'm going to probably bread it and fry it and make chicken strips with
Oh,
it.
nice.
It's
Oh, what a great
delicious.
idea.
Oh, it's awesome. But I'm still cooking it,
Right.
even though I don't cook it before I put it in the fridge, I'm still
Right.
cooking it. Some like chanterelles and trumpets, if you want to freeze those. Somebody recommended to me last year that you just put them in a dry frying pan for a minute or two, like dry fry them for a second to dry them out a little, and then you stick them in a bag and stick them in your fridge.
But then still cook them once you
Still
defrost it.
cook them. Yep. You always want to cook them.
Interesting.
Yep. Even when you
So
dehydrate them. Yep.
so what about those button mushrooms that people have been putting in raw in salads and stuff?
I guess it's not going to kill you to eat them raw, though that particular one, but that's the only one I've ever heard of being able to eat safely raw. And even
Right.
then, all the recommendations, like when you look into the science of it, they're like, no, you're supposed to be cooking those. You know?
Really? I mean, I don't like
Yeah.
the taste of them raw. I've had
I
them.
don't either. I like them cooked.
Yeah, me too.
So, I
Especially with
mean,
butter and garlic.
oh yeah, they're excellent. Put that
Yeah.
on a steak, it's awesome. And those button mushrooms have been studied in recent years to help prostate cancer. So they're being studied
Really?
for
'Cause it
medicinal
used to
purposes.
be that
Yeah.
they said they had very little nutritional value.
But
But they
all mushrooms have some kind
value.
of medicinal value.
Yeah, interesting. At one time, we actually raised shiitake mushrooms.
Nice.
We went to a class and, drilled the holes into the log and then
Yeah, I tried growing some a couple years ago. I think I didn't keep them wet enough, and that's why they didn't spore out.
well, what we were taught was you have to put the logs in a body of water, like a pond or something, for
Yeah.
24 hours, and then you
Hmm.
put it in a shaded section, ideally in your woods,
Yeah.
when
And
they
then you have
start
to keep
get
going
through.
back and watering it if it's too dry,
That
because
could
that's
be,
what
but
I
we
didn't
didn't
do.
have to because I guess it was wet
It's
enough
too
in
wet.
the woods. It was
Yeah,
wet
the
enough
year I
sooner, but
tried it, it was so not wet enough, and I just kept forgetting about it. I was like, "Oh, I better go water my mushrooms." I remembered a month later. So
oh,
I never ended up getting any, but
yeah.
it's my
Well,
own
I've
fault.
even done the kits at home. There's some
Yeah.
really cool organic
Oh, yeah.
mushroom kits that I've
Yep.
grown right in the kitchen.
Mhm.
Um,
I've done those.
I think I've just done oysters in the kitchen.
So be careful with oysters because if you grow those in your house and you have any wet or damp wood anywhere in your house,
Oh,
they
they're
can
gonna
grow in your house.
that's terrifying. Well, and we've had such a humid summer so far in Vermont that I
Yeah.
can imagine that would be Right, because those spores are going to drop and
Oh,
go
yeah,
in
they'll
the
be everywhere.
air.
I'm looking at my basement going, "Oh, this would be a nice climate for mushrooms," and then all I can think is, if I put mushrooms in my basement, my entire basement will be growing mushrooms everywhere.
Right,
So it's
right.
not a good idea.
Yeah,
You need a clean
that's a
environment.
very good tip.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You need a good book, and you could take my little mini class, or take a
Yeah.
class with somebody that's experienced.
Oh, okay. So speaking of your classes, we want to talk about the fact that you're giving a special discount to
Yes.
any listener of this podcast.
Yep.
So for your online courses,
Yep, my online courses are available at herbalremedies.amelia.com, and that's herbal with an H because I'm an American. So herbalremedies.amelia.com.
okay,
And the coupon code is GLN20, so Green Living Now 20. You
right,
get
and that gives you
20% off.
20% off.
Yeah, all of my classes there.
Perfect.
So
And that doesn't expire because we have no idea when anybody's going to be listening to this
nope, that's
particular
right.
episode.
No
So
expiration. So you
awesome.
guys, you can go there right now and get 20% off any of my classes on my
Fantastic.
website.
Great. Well, this has been awesome, Amelia. So much great information. I'm really glad that you're on the other side of the thyroid cancer experience.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely terrifying. What's one of the things I want to highlight too about that experience is the fact that you advocated for yourself and you kind of drew the line for your doctor
Oh,
to
yeah.
say, this is what I'm going to accept and this is what I'm not.
You really have to.
I think that's so important because I've been through a very terrifying scare for my daughter 9 years ago, and I felt like if I hadn't advocated for her, I don't know what would have happened.
I've talked with dozens of women who have had their thyroid removed or their gallbladder removed or whatever. It ended up not being necessary. And it was just
Oh
something that the doctor was like, well, I think it's going to happen. I met a woman last
no.
month who had her entire thyroid removed because they told her, well, we think it might be cancer. You got this lump and this lump
What?
and this lump. And they took her whole thing out and they said, nope, it wasn't cancer. And now
So
she has to
she's
live
got
on
all
medication
sorts.
for the rest of her life.
Oh my word.
So, yeah, and she's younger than me. So
So
it happens
that's
time and again.
yeah, and so there's that other thought of make sure you get a second opinion
Yeah.
because clearly whoever these people are that only were told that this was needed.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
didn't
and
get a
check
second
if
opinion.
you still talk with your relatives, check with your relatives because I didn't find out until after I'd already had the cancer, but my uncle had half of his thyroid removed from cancer too.
Wow.
He said he had a big goiter and I'm like, "Well, thanks for telling me before I found out I could cancer."
Yeah, and my understanding as far as genetics is that it's actually a small percentage that genetics plays as far as cancer.
Well, it depends on the type of cancer
I was
too.
just
I
gonna
mean,
say, yeah, maybe that does depend on the type.
there's actually like a much higher prevalence of thyroid cancer than normal in New England.
Oh, really? And
Yeah,
why do you think that
specifically.
is?
My endocrinologist her only theory that she could come up with is it's something environmental.
Right.
And I was like, well, we were the seat of the Industrial Revolution. So all I can think is I wonder how many chemicals are still in our environment here, in the water, in the ground from the last, 200 years of whatever we were doing to manufacture things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a tricky thing trying to figure out what potentially causes all these different health
Yeah.
problems that we have. And so the best we can do is just take charge of what we're eating, what we're using in our homes, and
Yeah.
essentially hope for the
You are in
best for
control
the
of your
rest of it.
own life and destiny and your
Yeah,
health. Yeah. Take it
exactly.
into your own hands.
Exactly.
The only one
Yeah.
you can trust for sure is yourself.
Well, thanks again, Amelia. I really appreciate your insight and your experience. And yeah, check out her courses. And I've looked at your website and you have a myriad of things that look amazing.
Thank you.
Well, you're very generous with your information sharing. So
Thank you.
If today's episode sparks something in you and you're starting to wonder what else might be hiding in your foods or your habits or your home, then you don't want to miss my free upcoming workshop. It's called Clean Eating Secrets, What You Don't Know May Be Hurting You. And it's coming up on Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern, live on Zoom. You'll learn how to spot toxic ingredients on food labels in under 30 seconds, decode misleading food labels, and follow a simple 3-step roadmap to detox your food, your kitchen, and your life. You can sign up at my website, greenlivingnow.com. I'd love to see you there.